On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous is a novel written by poet Ocean Vuong. So should you listen to a 7-hour-long poem? Hi, I'm Amanda, and this is Spineless Books, your one-stop shop for all things audiobook. On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, written by Ocean Vuong, was published in 2019. It's his first novel, but he is a fairly well-known poet. So essentially the novel is a letter from a son to his illiterate mother, and as letters go, it's fairly lengthy, but as novels go, it's pretty much average length. The book is basically the son explaining everything he understands about himself and his relationship with his mother in this letter. So there are some trigger warnings in this book. In fact, I'll just say blatantly, there were some pretty explicit sexual scenes. Here's the thing. That's not usually my cup of tea. I'm not like super into things like that. I don't read romance novels. But in this story, it was relevant to the plot and to your understanding of the character. So I don't mind it, even though I will say it's not usually my taste. But please check your trigger warnings just so you can be careful. So in general, the book is really a story about that moment in your growing up when you begin to understand that your parents are human beings and they're just people. And sometimes that makes a difference with how you feel towards your parents and sometimes it doesn't. But in this particular case, you're hearing a son sort of come to terms with who he is and how that relates to his mother and her impact on him as a human being. I really loved listening to this book. There were a number of lines that were just absolutely beautiful and kind of made me say, huh, out loud. And in fact, I still remember a few of them verbatim months later after having read this. And that's unusual that lines stick with me word for word. One of my favorites happened early on in the book, and it was so simple. Our hands were empty except for our hands. I mean, think about that for a second. It's so poetic and so beautiful, and it's just a perfect example of some of the lines that Ocean Vuong writes in this novel. You can really hear his roots as a poet as you listen to the book because it's just the language is incredibly well used, and he's really amazing at creating imagery in his writing. Ocean Vuong narrates his own book, and I have to be completely transparent and tell you that when this book first began, I thought, this is a woman, which is weird because I was pretty sure that I knew Ocean Vuong was a man, and I mean, granted, Ocean is a little bit of an ambiguous name and it could apply to any gender, but I thought, no, this is written by a man, so why is a woman narrating it if it's narrated by the author? So I actually had to pause for a second and take a look and do some research. So what I figured out, essentially, is that yes, it was Ocean Vuong, and Ocean Vuong is a man. He has a very androgynous voice, and at first it was a little bit like I had to keep readjusting myself and fixing the perspective I was listening from, just because my head kept saying I'm listening to a woman, but the perspective is that of a man. But the more I got used to it, the more I realized that his voice is actually totally suited to the story. Now, this is considered fictional and kind of like a fictional memoir. It really feels like a memoir. The way that Ocean Vuong narrates feels so vulnerable and so personal that I can't imagine that this isn't like 97% true with a couple of names changed to protect some people, but it really feels raw and earnest, and I'm actually really glad that he read the book. I don't know that anybody else could have read it and had it feel authentic because it's just so true to him, and that's part of what makes it beautiful. So overall, honestly, I'd pick this one up again, but if I picked it up again, I would have a notepad by my side. I would want to just literally record all of the beautiful lines from this book because I know there were so many that I don't remember, but were really impactful as I listened. So definitely recommend it, but again, check your trigger warnings because you never know. And if it's something that's going to bother you, I'd rather you know that in advance than that you hear my recommendation and decide, oh my God, what is this crazy lady saying? But remember, you might love what I hate and hate what I love. So make your own opinion, but thanks for listening to mine. See you next time.